All right, we are live. Welcome in, everybody. This is The Slate. We are a DraftKings show. We take you up until 6 Eastern on this Friday, December 16th. Matt LaMarca, Jeff Ulrich, alongside Brendan Glasheen. Yours truly is in Las Vegas, so I am excited to talk about the NFL with games tomorrow, games on Sunday, 3 games tomorrow. Full slate Sunday, no buys. Those are over. And of course, at Monday night, we've got the Rams and the Packers. Gents,
I did the math on this. So if you watch every televised football game,
does that include Thursday night?
Monday, you will literally lose a day, a full 24 hours, because there's 8 games on television. Thursday night, 3 Saturday, 3 Sunday, and a Monday nighter. Good luck to all the married folks out there.
Yeah.
See, but the good thing is this doesn't solve. I mean, you think this week's bad. Next week, you've got games all day Saturday and then the 3 on Sunday for Christmas. So
yeah.
This is why you get the package that has like the condensed game. And then you stay up late at night and you watch the games when the rest of your family's asleep. And then you get no sleep. That's what I do.
Perfect. There's a sacrifice involved no matter how you slice it up. I got to tell you, I'm really excited about the weekend being out here. I also just realized I'm not a big soccer guy, but the World Cup final is at 7 a.m. local time. So World Cup at 7, 10 a.m. You got the 1 o'clock slate, 4 o'clock slate, and then the night game. So yeah, this is fun. So I'm excited to do this. And Lamarca has been great all year with his picks. Jeff too. Lamarca though likes to show off and brag how well he's been doing this year. And you deserve it. You've been pretty humble, and then you've gotten kind of braggy recently, and that's fine. Anyway, we'll take this wherever you'd like to go. We can discuss the Saturday slate from a DFS perspective, the Sunday slate. We'll take it bit by bit, but looking at the games, we can start Saturday. Unless do any of you have a thought on the Niners? They win again with Purdy. The sharp side last night, thought it was Seattle, still felt like the right side, but they cover 3.5, whatever you had, and it feels like outside of Philadelphia, that's the team to beat in the NFC.
I'm still putting Dallas in that conversation too. I know Dallas didn't look good last week against Houston, but pretty clear like letdown spot. You don't even have to show up to beat Houston anymore these days. So I think it's those 3 teams. I was on San Francisco yesterday.
Good for you.
Just to continue with the theme of me just tooting my own horn left and right. But I don't think anything has changed with this San Francisco offense going from Jimmy Garoppolo to Brock Purdy. I mean, maybe Purdy has been a little bit better than I expected, but I think that playing quarterback in a Shanahan offense is about as easy as it gets. I mean, that first touchdown to George Kittle was just schemed up so beautifully. The double screen fake and then the tight end just right up the middle. I could have thrown that touchdown pass. And their skill position players are just so good. It didn't even matter that they didn't have Debo yesterday. Their defense is playing better than anyone in the league. Like, I think that they can win the NFC even if they don't get Jimmy Garoppolo back during the playoffs. I think they're that talented everywhere else.
Yeah, 2 things for me, Jeff, that jump out. We talked about this earlier in the week when we looked ahead on this game, and I honestly can't remember what side you ended up choosing, but we'll get to you in a second. But they're healthier too, right? They're healthier on the defense. To LaMarca's point, they've been terrific. And the playbook hasn't changed. Now, it changed slightly, I would assume, with no Debo, but my point is Shanahan's not looking at it like, I'm going from Garoppolo to Purdy, got to take some stuff out. Same scheme. This is Shanahan pumping out his chest, being like, this is about me. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of the same. I mean, it's part of the idea and the thesis around me liking San Francisco so much in the preseason. You know this, because I talked to you about it a ton, is just, the way he coaches and the way, if he has a backup quarterback, it just doesn't matter who comes in. Their offensive scheme is really hard to stop when they've got the correct personnel like they do with all the athletes they have. And then their defense is like performing even better than I think I thought it was going to. So, I admit, like I was on the Seahawks last night. It wasn't really a Brock Purdy call though. It wasn't like, oh, Brock Purdy stinks or he's like such a downgrade. It was, Purdy's a little banged up. It's a short week. And I really thought Seattle and Geno Smith might come out and just bump them a little bit at the start and just make it a closer game and potentially even steal it. But the Seahawks are toast. They had their run. They caught some teams off guard. The thing with the Seahawks is it wasn't Geno Smith's fault. It's not this losing streak isn't really his fault. It's that their O-line is terrible again. They're allowing a ton of sacks. They can't really run the ball properly. And their defense just doesn't stop anything anymore. So, like Woolens dipped down a little bit. So the Seahawks, I think, are done. The 49ers, I think the 49ers can honestly, they could probably win it all with Brock Purdy. It is weird though in the NFC. There's a very, is there any sleeper team in the NFC? It's Philly, Dallas, or San Francisco, and like who is the sleeper that's going to come through here?
People might say Detroit, but I'm not. I can't back that defense.
And the only reason I couldn't say Detroit yet is that there's a good chance they don't even make the playoffs. Like they can go 3-1 and not make the playoffs. So a little early to in on Detroit. That would probably be the team for me. But that's still golf in the playoffs. That defense. I don't know, man. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. I kind of agree. So it's really interesting the way the NFC is shaped up. I thought there'd be a few more teams involved. We thought the Packers would be competitive. The
Bucs obviously massive disappointment.
So weird how it's shaping up, but kind of cool in the same way because we're gonna get some huge showdowns here. When Dallas and Philly eventually meet up, or San Francisco and Philly.
And neither of you mentioned the Vikings. They have been the luckiest team in football this year. Yeah, front running bunch. Now they could rally around that, and maybe that's the story of the year. Hey, no one thought we were really that good. They play this underdog mentality, even though they are 10-3, but their point differential is -1 through 13 games.
The Rams kind of did something similar last year, but the thing with the Rams is they had a pretty good defense. They had Aaron Donald back there, and I just don't think that the Vikings have any of that. So, yeah, it could happen, but I don't think it will.
Okay. And the Vikings, they get the Colts, which that's one of the Saturday games. We have the odds up. We had them up just a second ago. Eagles +150 to win the conference. Niners +330. Yeah. And then there are the Dallas Cowboys. The rest of the way for the Vikings, home Colts, home Giants, at Green Bay, at Chicago. So looking ahead to the weekend and looking at the Saturday slate, these are numbers that are moving as we speak because the day is tomorrow when these games take place. LaMarca, when you look at, you can take whatever game you like. I mean, which game do you feel strongest about, I suppose? Colts, Vikings, Ravens, Browns, Dolphins, Bills, the nightcap.
It would be the first one. Not to just, I feel like I've been piling on the Vikings recently. As I wrote about this game this week, and I said I'm starting to feel a little bit guilty about how often I'm picking against Minnesota, but for the most part, it's been working. So I can't apologize all that much, but we laid it out, right? They're fraudulent. They have a negative point differential. They're 29th in the league in yardage differential. They were outgained again by Detroit last week. And I think that the Colts are a pretty undervalued football team at the moment. They're not a good football team, don't get me wrong, but they're not nearly as bad as their record suggests. Those two games with Sam Ehlinger, you can just throw those out the window. Sam Ehlinger is not an NFL caliber quarterback. And since Matt Ryan has come back, they've played some really good games. They beat the Raiders. They lost to the Eagles by 1. They had a game against the Steelers that went right down to the wire, and they were down by 2 points to the Cowboys in the fourth quarter of their last game before that thing ultimately got out of hand. So I think the Colts are, really not that much different from the Vikings from a pure talent perspective. But the Vikings just have this inflated record because of their unbelievable luck in close games, late games, etc. So I like this game a lot better when you were getting 4.5, but I still think as long as you're getting more than a field goal, the Colts are the right side here.
And it feels like, Jeff, the Vikings, they've had struggles. Their defense is sort of it's not as the numbers kind of lie a bit. in some of their performances when they've had good games. But what's very true when you look at some of the numbers on the Vikings defensively, they don't get to the quarterback. So maybe Matt Ryan will not look like a shell of himself, and maybe he can have a little bit of success. That's why I think Lamarck is kind of onto something here. The Vikings don't really get to the quarterback, and that's helpful for Jeff Saturday and company.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers don't even lie about the Vikings. I mean, they just stink, like you said. I mean, against, you know, in terms of yards per attempt, how much pressure they get. I mean, they're a bottom team. They're right there with teams who like the Raiders, who have far worse records, and that's probably where they should be. You know, the one thing about the Vikings is they're able to pull out games because of stuff that like Justin Jefferson does, and sometimes Dalvin Cook as well. So they kind of have that option, much like the Rams kind of just relied on a lot last year. But I mean, yeah, I think it's a good point to just say like there's not really very much difference between where these two teams are. The Colts were projected to win their division, and they were like minus 130 to do it. It's just kind of been the schedule breakdown, a little bit of luck. So perfectly fine to take the plus 3.5 with the Colts. I'm probably just going to lay off this game, to be honest. I as much as like I agree with everything, like it's still Matt Ryan on the road against, you know, the Vikings, which I just don't really like the fact they continue to roll with Matt Ryan. Like, you're really getting Foles in there. That's not even just like my bias showing in. It's like really what are you doing? I mean, continuing to roll Matt Ryan out there. So that bothers me a bit, but other than that,
because remember, Lamarca, Nick Foles caught it. You know, Nick Foles caught it, and Tom Brady didn't.
Well, wait, where was that game played? Was that played in Minnesota, that Super Bowl?
I'm not one of those weird people that knows that kind of stuff.
He knew. He was just being sarcastic.
So yeah, real missed opportunity here for the Colts, but that's the side I would lean to for sure. I'll probably be off this game just completely. But
so for Ravens Browns, am I wrong to think that Deshaun Watson not playing football for 700 days, I think he'll be better in this game? Huntley's the quarterback for the Ravens. He supposed he didn't have a concussion, but he cleared protocol. So there's been a delay in getting him back out there, but Huntley's going to be the quarterback for the Ravens. And for Cleveland, this, to me, Lamarca reeks of the Browns are kind of a wait till next year team. And maybe it's just too little too late in terms of getting their offense up to par. Like, he's just kind of getting thrown into the mix here 12 weeks in.
I mean, to an extent, like they're clearly not going to make the playoffs at this point, but I also don't think that they're just playing out the string, right? Especially you've got a divisional rival against a team that they hate. Don't forget that this team, the Baltimore Ravens, used to be the Cleveland Browns, right? They literally stole their franchise. So I think that there's plenty of motivation for both sides in this game. To me, this one comes down to how much you believe in Tyler Huntley, right? If you think that he is a starting caliber quarterback, you like the 2.5 points with Baltimore. If you don't, and I'm probably more in that camp where I need to see a little bit more from him, especially as a passer. His numbers have not really impressed since he's been under center. Then I think that laying less than 3 with Cleveland probably makes sense, right? We already saw a little bit of improvement from Deshaun Watson last week playing against a pretty underrated Bengals defense. So I think it's a spot where at less than 3, I side with the Browns. It's not a game that I have a ton of interest in, though.
And that the Bengals, they should not be underrated. They've been fantastic, and they're laying 3.5 against Tampa. And I think folks are starting to understand how good that team is defensively. It helps to have Joe Burrow. He's fantastic, no matter who's out there. P. Ryan or Mixon at running back. No Chase, no Higgins. It don't matter. Joe Burrow's, he's that guy. He's a bad man. He's been very good this year in the MVP discussion behind Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, rightfully so. But the Bengals just keep covering. So I think a team coming off a game against the Bengals, to your point, maybe we shouldn't get on Cleveland so much because, and if you look at Cleveland's schedule, including this game against Baltimore, which their secondary has been banged up, they're still respected as a good defensive team, I think, around the league. Their schedule's not favorable in terms of playing good defenses here. It's not like Deshaun got a break. He got the Texans his first game, granted, but no Lions, No Minnesota on that schedule. Some really frisky defenses that he's had to go up against here down the stretch. Jeff, you're on the Browns. We talked about this early in the week. You like Cleveland.
I do. And I mean, here's Cleveland's last one, two, like they've been really good at home is basically what I'm saying. The last home game, Tampa Bay, easy win. Absolutely smashed Cincinnati at home in a game like basically everyone was on the Bengals. They did get beat by New England. That was kind of a weird one. They should have won against the Chargers. Like that was just disaster. And then they smashed Pittsburgh. So like this is a team the Browns are a little weird. They have a lot of talent. And like when it shows up, I mean, they can kind of beat anyone. I think they're one of those teams where you can legitimately say that. I think this is going to be one of those weeks where the defense shows up. It's a division game. LaMarca got into that. I think I don't think there's going to be any problem with motivation. I like the matchups that, like Denzel Ward back there. Mark Andrews has not looked himself, which I think is a real issue for Tyler Huntley as well, because that's basically where he made his bread and butter last year, was with Mark Andrews, just targeting him relentlessly. And I just don't know where else he's going to go in this game. If Deshaun Watson shows any kind of improvement, and I like he made some pretty good throws last week. Yeah. I think this one could be like a bit of a laugher, to be honest. I love the matchups for Amari Cooper and Peoples-Jones on the outside too. Like I've seen some stuff, like Stefanski's ATS record. The Browns aren't running the ball that much, but like I have just as much concerns about the Ravens and their secondary in this spot with going up against like a guy who people used to think was like the second best quarterback in the league. So I think this is a good spot to get on Deshaun Watson as long as the number stays under 3.
Kevin Stefanski with the Browns in his career as a favorite is 9-17 against the spread. 18-8 straight up. And then the other record the trend that jumps out to us on him, let me find it. I just had it in front of me.
It's really bad division. This division.
Yeah, the division record, 4-12, I think, against the number against the AFC North in his career.
It's one of those things like,
oh yeah, right here. 8-8 straight up, 4-12 against the division, against the spread, versus the division under his watch.
It's weird with trends like that. Those are with different quarterbacks, different personnel. There's injury issues in there. And, some of it's just like it's football. It's luck. I mean, so, you could even, I think it's probably a good argument. You say probably due for some positive regression in some of those categories, like really soon. So I don't know what to make of that. All I know is that with the way these two teams have been shaping up the last couple of weeks, I'm going to take Cleveland here at under 3.
And that division at this time of year, like you guys hit on, is just, it gets wacky. Like one of the sides I remember being on, I was on the Pittsburgh side a few weeks ago. That was supposed to be the Sunday night game, and it got flexed to 4:00 when Pittsburgh hosted Cincinnati. Cincinnati rolled, but Pittsburgh was a popular pick at 4.5, 5.5, 6.5, wherever it was, and that was still with Pickett at quarterback, and they were home. Mike Tomlin, rah spot. But maybe Cincinnati is that exception, and then everyone else just kind of beats each other up. This game, so here we are this time of year. It's December. It's cold. It's windy. Buffalo laying 7 at home against the Dolphins. And the bigs, you look at it from one standpoint, the Bills have sort of been survive and advance. And that's that. And Jeff, we talked about this Monday. We're at the time of year now where if you're a good team, you just find a way, move on. We care about the spread, but they don't. Find a way, move on, get the W's. And that's where the Bills are, keeping up with the Chiefs and the Bengals for the number 1 seed potentially. But for Miami, some concerns. Last 2 games, Niners scheme it up well. They get to Tua. They're like, all right, try to beat us deep. And maybe every once in a while you beat us deep, but we're going to play up on top of your speedy receivers and not let you get any cheap yards and yak any yards after the catch. Chargers scheme it up, and they're banged up, and they still found a way to keep that offense in check. See Tua and his completion percentage for most of that game. When you first look at the line, you see 7, LaMarca, you're like, oh, Miami, bounce back spot. But when you consider the way they've been schemed up against their offense, the way the teams have schemed them up defensively, granted, there's no Von Miller in this game. Buffalo is getting healthier elsewhere, but no Von Miller. That's a big loss. And the weather, they're cranking heaters in Los Angeles when it's 55. Like, do you side more on the bounce back spot Miami, or is this a spot for the Bills to remind us, okay, the Bills are really in this thing?
Yeah.
as a
So
contender?
first, I think the weather trends are stupid.
Okay. fair
I'm
enough.
a good trends guy. I love trends, right?
Yep.
I'm not one of those people that'll sit here and tell you that you can't learn anything about trends, but I think that when you talk about Tua in particular, anything that he did pre Tyreek Hill, Mike McDaniel, like he's obviously a completely different player at this
Sure.
point. So it's hard for me to say like, oh, in his rookie season he played in a cold game and they didn't cover. Like those kind of trends to me are just kind of garbage. So for me, it's just I look at this game and I keep waiting for the Bills to have that game where they reassert themselves, right?
Yep.
Like they're still the Super Bowl favorites, but they have looked far from impressive, I would say, of late. And this is a bit of a revenge spot for them. The
Mhm.
Dolphins beat them in their first matchup this season, albeit in a game where Buffalo outgained Miami by 285 yards.
Well, and it's a reverse weather game, right? Now we're getting, instead of heat, 90 plays being ran in the hot weather. I think that was a September game, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
And now we're getting
Yep.
a really chilly Buffalo atmosphere.
So I just keep waiting for Buffalo to lay the smackdown on somebody.
Okay.
And, I think it's possible that happens this week.
And Jeff, I'm afraid that Miami doesn't have much of a running game. So Lamarca makes a good point. If Tua gets it out quick and lets Tyreek do his thing, Jalen Waddle, perhaps they're fine. But I'm worried about the Dolphins being a little too one-dimensional, and they're a little bit figured out.
Yeah. I said earlier in the week on the sweat, is this a spot where Mike McDaniels has jumped the shark? I don't know if you guys know what that term means, because
Yeah, of course.
the host, yeah, of course you guys do. But Jesse and Emerson didn't know what it meant. They had to Google it. Anyways,
Well, they're special.
yeah, they're a special duo. But
Hey,
my point was,
they were under the weather this week. They're
fair.
and Emerson gets all, he's all bought in now to the Trevor Lawrence story. Like they get distracted like with stuff. So let's give him a break. The holidays, come on.
Yeah. Anyways, like he's been strutting around saying he's wished it's colder. They're practicing outside. It's the mentality of someone who is like, how you're like scared of something, then you act like you're not scared. Like that's what it feels like with the Dolphins. My other issue with this game is this number has stayed right at 7, and it feels like the books just want people to take some action on Miami. Like they need it. So they're kind of just hanging out that 7 saying, yeah, Miami's a great bet. 7 points, it's a key number. Look.
Yeah, get the full touchdown.
Yeah, you get the full touchdown. Don't worry about it.
And I don't want to,
fine.
On the subject of slamming coworkers, Steve Buchanan and Julian Edlow, they do a fine job co-hosting the Unreasonable Odds podcast. There's Steve being a sucker early in the week. Oh, this could be a good bounce back spot for the Dolphins. Now they were getting 7.5. Line moved from 7.5 to 7. So the key number, right, of 7.
I mean, the game hasn't been played yet, so we can't call him a sucker. I mean, we could be the suckers, but
I call him a square all the time.
That's fine.
Nah. Sorry, I wanted to get involved on the bashing.
He really should stick to baseball. No, look, I'm with the market here. I mean, I think that this is a good spot for the Bills. The Bills have been getting healthier. Tre'Davious White up to full snap count. When him and Poyer are back there, man, like that team they are really, really tough to score on. So yeah, I think this one's going to play out how we think, but it's the NFL. Who knows? Maybe you got some cold weather. Maybe that cold weather training Tua did in Maryland is going to come in handy this week. I don't know.
Are there any thoughts, Lamarca, speaking of the trends, and you're like, whatever, in terms of the total, because it's at 44 and the Bills have actually been a pretty good under team. They're 9-2 to the under in their last 11.
Yeah, they have been. And I know that there are some good under trends when you start talking about like wind, but for me, like once people start talking about an under based on like weather conditions, it's already too late. The value is already gone. If anything, you're better off buying back and going in the other direction, because a lot of the times we get talk of these like apocalyptic conditions, and then it's like, oh, there's a little snow and you got a 10-15 mile an hour breeze coming through, and it all ends up being overblown. So I would think that if this total comes down at all, you would probably want to just be on the other side of that.
Yeah, heavy snow is the predicted forecast for Saturday's game. And that is the night game, 8:15 start in Buffalo.
If it's snow and the wind picks up, sure. But if it's just snow, like that, there are like shovels are a thing, snow blowers and stuff like that. So you probably ain't really going to see much of it. Yeah, I'm completely with Lamarca. I may even I think once it gets down to 43 and a half, like I'll probably potentially throw a little on the over there.
Maybe our guy, my guy, Raheem Mostert will wake up. It doesn't feel like Jeff Wilson has been all that productive. He's been banged up.
Is he out this week, Wilson?
I was just going to say that. I think he's out now that I say it.
Pretty sure he is.
Let's see. I've got the DFS slate pulled up. Miami running backs. Jeff Wilson is questionable with a hip.
Okay.
But he was limited. He was limited in practice on.
He didn't play much last week.
Yeah.
So.
No, I know.
Can they get another 49ers running back? What's that guy Davis Price up to? Let's send him to Miami.
Well, trade deadline's been passed.
So all right, let's bring Frank Gore back. He's on the street.
Yeah, they'll find a way.
What about the coming weekend? Or well, that is the weekend. How about Sunday? Any spots? You guys, I think Lamarca mentioned the Jets, right? You said
the Jets, as in not betting on them, betting against them.
You want to bet the Lions, right? Okay.
Yeah, and it feels like a sucker type, buying high on Detroit. They're now road favorites, which it feels really weird
from early in the week. They were a dog +1. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but again, anything in between the 2.5 range in either direction doesn't really matter. You kind of just need to win the game.
Yep.
But I think that the Jets are they're just a fraud. Their defense is pretty good. I'll take my chances with the Lions offense against their defense. I think the Lions have a legitimate top 5 NFL offense when they're healthy, and they're only getting better with, Jameson Williams now being introduced into the equation. So I'll take my chances with the Detroit offense. And, the Zach Wilson thing, I do think there's a legit motivational thing with the team. Like, I don't think Mike White is very good. His numbers from the past few weeks certainly are not very good. But the team really likes that guy because he does all the stuff that a quarterback is supposed to do. He takes the blame for the losses, and he's not looking for special treatment, etc. And
he's one of the guys.
Right. And now that it's Wilson again, I just feel like they have to be a little bit demoralized.
It's deflating. I completely agree, man. I was kind of ready to just not touch this game, and as soon as I heard Zach Wilson and I looked at the line and I'm like, it's still there. Like, yeah, I'm taking a piece of the Lions, just for the simple fact that the Lions have been on a roll. Everything's just going well for that team right now. They got the draft picks coming in from the Stafford thing. Jameson's back. Like, the playoffs are on the horizon. I think they put one over here, man. And Zach Wilson, this is not what you'd say. Like, everyone's like, oh yeah, it's a redemption. So he's a quarterback. This is not a good situation to be coming into, man. Like, a surprise start. You were just benched for this guy. This isn't like, oh, you're being given a second chance. Mike White was bad. We want you back. This is, oh, he's injured. We need you, kid. It's not good. Like, I think the Jets may get rolled here. So.
And considering how the Lions started their year, everyone counted them out. They were 1-6, 1-5. They lost the Buffalo game on Thanksgiving.
Who's the coach of the year right now?
Dan Campbell, right? It's got to be.
He's in the running. It's got to be.
I think it's Sirianni.
Shanahan, definitely in the combo. Third string quarterback. Those are the top 3. Is there someone else we're missing? I guess McDermott kind of could be in the running.
I'm looking to see if those odds are up right now. Coach of the year, they're up here. Here we go. Sirianni -400. Wow, there's Dan Campbell, Salah, McDaniel.
Yeah. I mean, you could sprinkle it on Campbell, I guess. Maybe hope that the Eagles somehow.
Well,
yeah, what?
There
is a path for that, right? If the Eagles lose to the Cowboys, and somehow Dallas overtakes them in the division, and Detroit backdoors a playoff spot, there's a route for that.
It's plus 1,200. It's actually, you know what? The more I think about it, because
Well,
It's
and
like, it's not going to
and
McDaniel. It's not going
if
to.
you
Yeah. So go ahead.
if you like the Lions this week, you should bet Dan Campbell to win this award.
Good point.
Right? I mean, well, because if Salah wins,
I mean, you can win this week without giving Dan Campbell Coach of the Year.
I understand
I'm
that.
not
but,
saying.
well, I meant more so to eliminate Salah.
Yes, that okay.
Pick one over
Robert
the other.
Saleh
That's
is
cool.
not winning Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Well,
I've already eliminated him in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Well, what if Wilson play? What if the Jets win and Wilson looks good and maybe he played it perfectly? Now White got hurt, so he's backing into Wilson as a starter this week. That was the news of the day. Zach
I
Wilson's
think
the starter.
that the problem with Salah is I think a lot of the credit there goes to the GM for building the team.
Yep.
Like I think that the draft picks and stuff, like Campbell's been the more, yeah, that's just the way. I think it's more of an optics thing. It's humans voting on it. Campbell's kind of got that love. The other thing is, I don't know if people like Robert Saleh, like honestly. So there's that factor too. Like everyone loves Dan Campbell. He's hilarious.
I think too, like I would be more willing. I think Campbell's fine at 1,200. I might be more inclined to take Mike McDaniel at plus 2,000. Like that guy legitimately is a story, right? He has completely revitalized this Dolphins team and their offense. And, you know, I know we all picked Buffalo for this week, but what if they do beat the Bills this week?
Yeah.
Well, and that back to your point about assertive spot for the Bills. Well, Miami wins that game. The division, the division's open. That is a discussion. The final 4 weeks of the year.
A great hedge would be sprinkle a little money on Mike McDaniel, Coach of the Year, and bet the Bills straight up this week.
I like that.
There you go.
Okay, good. We're coming around. Award talk. We got 5 minutes left. Any other games you guys want to talk about? Maybe we can go to the DFS side too if you guys got thoughts there. But any other games you feel strongly about for Sunday?
Steelers +3 against the Panthers. I know Jeff loves the Panthers. Their new mentality of we're going to run the ball 50 times a game. Mm-hmm. It never fails unless you play a team that can stop the run like Pittsburgh.
Jeff doesn't agree though.
Yeah, I mean, I when I first wanted to stay away from this game, but you know, Carolina's defense, man, like they deserve a shout out. Last 3 weeks, 4th fewest yards per pass attempt in the league. They're right up there with like elite teams like the Eagles and stuff like that. Pressure rate up, you know, the sacks per game. And now you've got like the Steelers hosting a QB competition. I know Mike Tomlin is not like, he's used to this. Like he's used to Ben Roethlisberger getting injured, bringing in like whoever he's got as the backup, you know, Charlie Batch, like whatever. So it's not an unusual spot, but I mean, it's worth mentioning. And I think that this is really more about the Panthers. I think that the Panthers are a little bit of an underrated story right now. Like Steve Wilkes has come in, turned that team around, much like Dan Campbell has kind of turned around the Lions. Now, the problem with the Panthers is, and this is why I wasn't sure of it first, but you know, it's Darnold and an offense that, you know, now DJ Moore is questionable. That hurts me a little bit because part of my premise here was DJ Moore is going to carve up the secondary, which still could happen, but I'm still going to stick with my call here. I think Darnold does enough. I think that the Panthers defense is the real story. And I think they're just going to limit a Steelers offense. It's just not going to be good at all. And
maybe the real play here is the under.
Yeah. It definitely feels like another, like, you know, 2013 kind of game. So it's certainly the side I would lean to, but I like the Panthers. They're at home. They've been covering. I still think they're a little bit undervalued, and I think they're going to make a run for the division too.
Second lowest total is Arizona and Denver. Russell Wilson ruled out. Colt McCoy is the starter in Arizona. So we get Brett Rippon. His first name's Brett, right?
Yeah.
Brett Rippon.
Who cares?
I still think you take the under in this game.
Brent, B-Rye.
Denver's been one of the best teams to be under.
I'm going to take the Cardinals here. I was actually getting kind of talking myself into taking the Broncos again, but I'm going to pivot. Cliff Kingsbury is actually very good underdog on the road. He's 11-4 over the last 3 years as a road underdog. And I think Colt McCoy is actually like a fairly serviceable NFL quarterback for a backup. Gonna roll with the Cardinals here.
I'm going to take absolutely nothing in this game and just pretend that it doesn't
Yeah,
exist.
well, and earlier this
That's an option.
morning I said, you know, the thing that I'm most going to be hammering before watching this game is an edible. So that stands.
Well, that fits for Denver for sure. So that works out really
Yeah,
well.
that's right. It's in Denver, so we're good.
All right, let me put you
Compliance
guys,
with local state laws.
because we didn't touch on DFS and I feel somewhat guilty about that. How about we do this before we leave? LaMarca, you give a player you got to play on the Saturday slate and then a player you got to play on the Sunday slate. A must
Player you've got to play on Saturday slate. Okay.
If people are playing the Saturday slate by itself, then the Sunday slate by itself.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Jonathan Taylor. Is that a hot take? play the best running back on the slate. I think Jonathan Taylor is gonna carve up the Vikings. The Vikings defense has not been good. We kind of talked about it when we were breaking down this game. Jonathan Taylor has been very active of late. He's had at least 20 carries in 4 straight games. You know, since Jeff Saturday came back into the picture, they have been committed to getting him his 20 plus touches. I like his chances of success in this spot.
Jeff, you got a favorite player for Saturday, which is tomorrow of the 16th?
Saturday is interesting. I'm gonna just go with like a Deshaun Watson, Donovan Peoples-Jones stack. I think it's just I talked about the matchup, and I'll just stick with it. Like I really like the matchup there for both guys on the outside. You know, you could even double stack, I think, with like Cooper and Peoples-Jones. I think the main theory here is I just think Deshaun Watson is a great play. I think this is, you're catching people off. He's running the ball. He picked up you know, he's averaging 6.5 rush attempts. I'm not really scared of the Baltimore defense that much, at least not now that, you know, they've got Watson back there, and I think that'll help their pass game. So, yeah, I'll go with Watson.
Okay, and how about this? If you want Sunday plays, watch the Sweat on Sunday because it's late. We need to leave.
Patriots Raiders game stack.
Yeah, I like that. I like.
Oh, give me a pick. Give me a pick for Sunday. Go to the game. What do you guys like?
Over.
Yeah, baby.
Over.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I don't like the side either. What is it? Patriots +1 right now still?
It's like a pick 'em. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm happy the game means something because the Pats beat the Cardinals. So that makes it more, you know, excited.
Hunter Henry, you know what? For that game, we missed this last week, Hunter Henry
touchdown
lines and touchdown props.
Oh, down the seam. He had it. I was so bummed out for you.
I know. That sucked.
On that note, have a fun weekend, everybody, betting on this sport and making lineups to have your heart ripped out during this holiday season.
By Hunter Henry.
Thanks to Eamon and Daniel behind the scenes, Matt LaMarca, Jeff Ulrich, great work. We did quite a bit there. Some reaction to yesterday, Saturday breakdown, and then Sunday we do have the Sweat live, so you can watch the Sunday stuff this coming weekend. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a great weekend. I'm going to enjoy myself here in Vegas. Put some of those picks in,
baby.
and yeah, we'll keep it going. You all have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.